Hey, Craig.
Yeah.
Did you get a hold of PK?
Yeah, I heard some audio.
You want to? There's a few people on. I might want to just give them a ETA or something.
Yeah, sure.
Who are you actually looking at, yourself or me?
I'm looking at you right now.
Hi, Mike Gamble.
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to try and make the...
There we go.
The other camera is not working, but I'm just using the FaceTime.
Oh, that was you, Max. I thought I recognised the voice.
It's me making the rude remarks about your holiday.
That's right. G'day, Simon. How you doing, mate?
Hey, not bad, Craig. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Good.
How's the holiday? How's the sun treating you?
Oh, it's pretty awesome, mate. I've got to say, it's not bad. The time zone actually works in my favour. I tend to sort of get up at about 5. Tend to work through till about lunchtime because there's a 3-hour roughly difference. So it's like 9 a.m. now.
Yeah.
So I can sort of work up till just about lunchtime, and by that stage, everyone's sort of dropped off in Melbourne. So I spend the afternoon with the kids. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome.
See some palm trees and beach behind you there. Looks like.
Well, I actually should. I should do that. I should do the next one actually sitting, at a resort with the showing you the pool. Is there any more people coming in yet, Mike, or do you reckon we'll just kick off?
Oh, we're good.
Oh, just
Can you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah. So who's on your screen right now?
I've got Pete, I've got PK, I've got Rahul, Toby.
Actually,
and I've got Melbourne guest. I'm not sure who that is, but
is it yourself?
I can see myself. Yeah. We're good. Okay, well, we might kick off then, eh?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. So look, thanks everyone for joining in. Sorry we had some technical difficulties this morning. Mike and I and the rest of us spent a bit of time trying to do all these test runs. Of course, by the time you actually kick off these things, something always goes wrong, and of course it did. But we're all here now, so we're good. This is the third blockchain developers get together. Fourth, is it? Oh, cool. It's getting away from me. I set this up for the newcomers. I set this up a little while ago when I was still in Melbourne, and we've sort of created a pretty good group of regular folks coming in. So I wanted to keep this thing going. So Mike's been kind enough to do a bit of a talk today. Now Mike's been actually really good at finding a lot of really good content. There's been a few blog articles and bits and pieces that he's shared on the meetup group that have been really helpful for me in learning about blockchains. But before I hand over, I just want to say I actually took my kids to a place called Kidzania on the weekend in Bangkok, and it's actually it's a scale city, right? And kids can go in there and they can do different jobs, and they can they actually get paid in pretend money, and then they can spend that money, etc. So, but me being the cynic that I am, I'm walking through this place and I'm seeing all these jobs that people sort of could potentially be doing, or these kids could be doing, and I'm thinking that's going to be automated. That's not going to be around in 5 years' time. That's not going to be around. Now, I didn't say anything because I didn't want to curb my children's enthusiasm, but I think that's sort of the topic that we're going to cover today. Is that Mike's going to sort of talk about what does our future look like in a world where blockchains are fully enabled and part of mainstream sort of technology stack. So with that, you dropped off there for a second there, Mike. I'm just going to
twice.
Hang on. Let me get you. You're muted. You want to unmute yourself?
We dropped off twice. It might be here, but we missed your talk.
Okay, all right. That's not bad. I'll hand over to you, buddy.
Okay. Okay, it says I'm presenting to everyone. Craig, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, we're okay.
Thanks everyone in the room and elsewhere around the world and everywhere. I just wanted to put together a bit of slides on things I found. I'm sure everyone here is deeper in various areas. I'm more interested in the application rather than the technology, but I have to have a basic understanding of it. There's various people that are at different levels in this stuff because it's all brand new. I come from a background of product development, and that's mostly in software, but fairly hard software. So right at the moment, I'm working on a Telstra Defense project. But I started doing submarine robotics way back, and I did things like we cleaned up a nuclear power plant, 3 Mile Island, which took about 12, 13 years to get close to the thing. I also did collision avoidance of submarines in a shopping center, so that was pretty weird. After that, came to Australia, and I worked on microcode in an ASIC, one of the 3 that was in a company in Perth that became your father's or your older brother's broadband network. So the company's called KeepUsX. After the tech crash, 6 of us started a commercialization company in Perth. And I sold up about 5 years ago and came here, worked on a 4-year project now, as I say, an Telstra product. Okay, so what we'll do today, yep, still good, talk about that. When I saw the blockchain, I figured this is more than cloud computing, this is more than Internet of Things, this is more than, it kind of cuts through everything because especially finance is kind of just beyond the level of food, clothing, and shelter in terms of humanity. So I think the first wave, and this isn't just my words, I've seen others say this, was mainframes. In the 80s, when I was almost 20, there was, we used to have PC user groups. Now it's a meetup, and it's very similar after what we're experiencing here. We're trying to figure out what to do with these things. And so I remember someone said PC and agriculture, PC and everything, and as we know, they're everywhere now. In 1992, I was working in Perth, and I stumbled across, and I can't even remember what my desktop looks like at that point because it was pre-Netscape, but I found this place in CERN. They were doing some hyperlink stuff, and I said to my boss, there's something going on here, I don't know what it is. And that was Tim Berners-Lee working on that stuff. Smartphones, that's a good and bad thing, as we know. So there's disruption, and there's distraction, and there's traffic accidents. So now we're up to blockchain, and I think it's actually in this category of 5 things that are that important. So just a question, who do you trust? Do you trust this man in this nice suit with a Bitcoin lapel? Seems like a nice guy. I don't know if you've seen this person, maybe you trust him. In Australia, he was a major player in the religions, I won't get into that. This guy runs media, he seems to be, reporting the truth, right? And then there's this guy who's locked up in a place in London, maybe you trust him. Or maybe you just trust companies because they do the right thing as well. So we're sort of at that stage in history where I know the answer that I would give to all these people. So this is just really quickly, again, if there's any beginners out there. Blockchain is something happened, and actually you can also say something happened now, which is really important for some people, like artists, who want to say that this is my intellectual property, I actually own it today. So in the future, somebody can actually say it. Then there's many, many, many nodes out there, all checking this, and they say, yes, it's okay. So that's pretty well what it is. It's a public ledger, which once you write it, it's done. It's can be almost anonymous. There's ways to not be. It's distributed. Centralist, which is different than distributed, and you don't need to trust anyone to make this work. And that's why it is pretty cool. So what I want to do now is go through various slides of just things I've found. And again, I'm not expert on any of these things, but I can see some of the implications of them. So there might be people who are familiar with some of these. So one I found was Fluent. Again, on all these things, just take a look at the name and enter blockchain in Google, and you'll find their website. So as far as I can tell, they're aiming to take over global supply chains, and this would be sort of business to business in real time, but they're also going for the whole invoicing and that sort of thing. Ripple, if you're not familiar, is making big inroads in the banking industry. And so of the 4 blockchain meetups we've had so far, the first one was in November in a little cafe in Flagstaff. The second was at the NAB Village, and Simon from NAB was kind enough to host that and gave us some real insight into why banks are interested. They don't see it necessarily as a threat, but in terms of international transfers, the efficiencies of scale. So if you ever try to send some money, it takes like 10 days still to get somewhere. It's because it has to go through like 6 or 7 or 8 checks, whereas this could happen sort of in 5-10 minutes. Geeky things that are happening now. There's the interplanetary file system. So this is sort of applying the whole idea of distribution so that it's storage out there. I find this a bit weird because that means that you send stuff out and it's immutable, it never gets erased. So I'm not sure how far this one will fly. There's a guy who came last time, Peter, who's involved in MadeSafe. This one's a little more interesting to me than that. It's both code and data, and it sounds to me more like grid computing. I don't know if anyone remembers SETI screensavers, but the idea was that when you weren't using a computer, it went and looked for aliens. It didn't really work so far. But if Peter was here, he'd be able to tell us a bit more information. Maybe he's out there somewhere. Those who deal with computers, we have to deal with SSL and certificates. And if anyone's ever tried to do a certificate, it's a real pain, and it's just lots of steps. And it's actually vulnerable. So a lot of people don't know, but in 2010, VeriSign was hacked. It has to do with these signature integrity things. So there's a hope that, again, who do you trust? Well, you don't have to trust anyone. You don't have to trust a signing authority. Everyone can confirm that this is happening. And finally, there's a couple ones springing up that are to do with DNS. So what that means is when you register your domain, you don't go to Melbourne IT or GoDaddy. You go to these places. So it's a completely different internet. And you have to hook in. There's a link on the bottom of the screen where you can go and it'll hook into your browser and then you go there. So why is that important? Well, probably I can't think of any reason right at the moment for us here. But if you're in some place like Angola or maybe even China where you're being filtered, then this allows you through. So it's pretty interesting. More IT things. Guard time is pretty interesting because about a month ago, their website was really dense in terms of the information. And they were aiming at whenever network traffic's coming at you, it will confirm it. So it's pretty high-powered stuff. But they've dumbed, well, I wouldn't say dumbed it down, but it's a little bit easier to understand if you go to their website. And again, it's like the last thing I just talked about, where it's dealing with. I think that's a really old message that came through. So that's. I think I'm off the screen. Just one moment, guys. So when we were setting this up on Monday, there's 3 of us that are working in this environment. Then we swapped to another one, and then just before we started, we tried another one, but we're back to the first one again.
Got a connection there?
It looks like it.
Yeah.
And it sent the chat through.
Okay.
It might be him.
Is it just Craig?
Yeah, it'd be nice to get confirmation from someone else. PK, can you hear me? Yeah, okay, thank you. Good stuff. All right, he's still there, it's just Craig. Yeah, so on Wednesday, Craig is in Thailand for another couple of weeks, and he's going to Vietnam. And he left us. He's got 4 kids, and he's taken them to places. And anyway, we were there. His 1-year-old pulled up. Continue. Okay, so guard time, pretty interesting if you want to have a look at it. One thing I think is pretty interesting is health records, because there was a push by the Australian government to standardize health records. I think that's, again, privacy that you watch, so this might help there. This theory, I had to go back 3 or 4 times after I took notes because I'm trying to figure out what it does, but I think what it is if you have a website where you gather information, there's an API where you can send that to the blockchain. So I'm trying to get my mind around that, but apparently there's 500 apps that hook into it, or can through this other thing. So perhaps that you take someone's login details or your hotel reservation or something. Again, it's a transaction that occurred, so you can't argue because everyone sees that whoever you are has made a booking. Last meetup, we were here about a month ago, and we got into a conversation about databases and whether blockchain is a database. And people who have dealt with databases, there's different characteristics that say, well, no, because you can't roll back, and there's other aspects. And I guess in my mind, the main thing at this point is that it's not fast enough. I mean, for your Visa, you're dealing with 20,000 transactions a second around the world, and of course, Bitcoin isn't there, but it's, it can be, it could be. So ChainDB is a distributed database supplemented with blockchain characteristics. I'd have to further reading to really understand what that means, but there's a white paper if you want to read it. Legal is a pretty interesting area. Again, who owns what? So this place called Everledger, they're kind of vertical market. They're going for diamond certification. So if you have diamond at home, you might want to check them out. The idea of a notary public is a good idea. So if you're getting married, you can tell them and nobody can argue it. And then artists. So intellectual property, especially digital intellectual property, music in the form of FLAC files or whatever. Again, you can share and track. And as I said earlier, you can say, I owned it at this time. So we might actually finally give artists the ability to recoup what they've done instead of going to Spotify and losing 92% of their work. And I've added block freight, which is people right next door. Julian's in the audience here. And when I came first to Bitcoin Center, that's the thing that captured my attention, because what it is it's taking a really old industry, and we're talking like Manifest, something like 1590, some of the rules are still in play. And so this is shipping. So ships come into port. I don't know if they still use paper or not, but I'm picturing they do. There's, yeah. Email, okay. And then something arrives on the port, and all these stevedores unpack it and things. But if you could actually detect when it has entered your waters through GPS, you know where it is, and it's been transferred. So I think you're onto something there, Julie. I think with all these sort of industries where you aim at, especially the status quo, you have to get a few people who are deep in the domain, and then get them to become a champion. We collectively are mainly a technology team, but we have to mix those two together. Dev tools. Okay, so the main platforms at this point are Bitcoin and Ethereum. And again, I just found a few. It's called Tradle. Tradle.io is the actual website. IO is Indian Ocean or something. I don't know. It seems to be cool at the moment. So we have to get one. So they're saying that they have an app where, again, you can extend using the Bitcoin platform. Now, the reason you want to do that is because Bitcoin's got lots and lots of nodes by now. And so people can build on top of that. Ethereum's coming up, but Bitcoin's the biggest installed base, if you like. Rootstock is exactly that. So the idea is to take Bitcoin and add smart contracts. So I'll give you a book a few slides from now, but Bitcoin is kind of blockchain 1.0, and blockchain 2.0 is smart contracts. And blockchain 3.0 is something called distributed autonomous organizations, where it all gets really weird and we don't matter anymore. There's more development environments for Ethereum. I've got a little Raspberry Pi in my laundry room doing something. I'm not sure what. it's catching up. So it might take a while. So I'm up to like 200,000.
On the blocks.
On the theory. Yeah.
Okay.
Same idea.
How long does it take them to get that far?
About 5 days. So I'm not sure what will happen when we find this. That's not really development, that's just running a node. I threw this one in because Azure, I'm not really a Microsoft guy, but Azure is from Microsoft, and it seems to be making some traction in this area. And there's something called Strato that builds on top of it. Sorry. Well, by the way, I mean, I'm happy you're taking notes, but I'll make this available after the presentation. All right. And I just expanded this one a little bit. Not that I have any preference, but I just did further reading on it. So there's lots of private chains happening, and you'll find if you're reading about side chains, and the Lightning Network's kind of interesting because instead of clogging up the Bitcoin blockchain, you can effectively run a tab on lots of little micropayments and then sell it sometime in the future. Of course, that means the person is incurring a debt, assuming you will pay up. But you know, there are little things that may be all right. So anyway, this thing called multi-chain is all those sort of concepts. But what they said is, let's just make everything configurable. So the Bitcoin is very tied down in terms of the number of rules of how big the blocks are and the degree of difficulty and all that sort of thing. Whereas this thing, you can do whatever you like. The thing I can't get my mind around is for all this stuff to work, you have to have a critical mass. You have to have a number of nodes before that you can trust, because you have to have thousands of people agreeing, I would think. So what they're claiming is if you're within an organization or if you're bank to bank, you don't trust your competitors, so you need a Chinese wall. So that's where this would be sorted. Craig's just raised the question, what does R3's new blockchain do? So R3, if you haven't been following it, is a consortium of, I think, about 80 banks, and I think all our 4 banks are involved in it. Again, talking to Simon, they're really very early stages. They're just trying to get their mind around it. They know they got to do something with it. Again, because of efficiency, not so much competition. If you look on this meetup website, you'll find back in November I posted something I found, which is an infographic on the magnitude of things happening in the banking industry. So right at that time, Bitcoin was about $1 billion. I can't remember the time dimension. But you go up the stack and you get to things like derivatives and these things that caused everything to go south in 2008. We're talking quadrillion dollars. It's just, so it's not a threat at this point, but they can see using it to save billions of dollars a day. This one is really interesting. So I don't know if you follow the Internet of Things. You heard my background. I did basically that, but we didn't have the Internet. But I did lots of little SCADA things and things that controlled stuff. But now that we have the Internet, it's gone to the next level. And this thing called Slocket, which is out of Germany. And the idea is, with the gig economy, which I'll talk a bit about, you have something and you use it for a while and you get it back, and somebody else, like Uber, like Airbnb. And so what they've done is they've created these locks that you can apply to things and then control them and who has ownership for this period of time. That's interesting. The other thing that's really interesting is their business model. So this is their business model. If you can see it. So thanks, Craig. So DAO is what I talked about earlier, blockchain 3.0. So it's a distributed, automated organization. No people are involved. You set it up. There's rules that run it. They decide amongst itself when to trigger things that happen, maybe have board meetings, and then when they attain their goal, it disappears. This has pretty big legal ramifications as to who you sue if they're gone. Anyway, so the DAO creates funds. Slockit, the yellow ball, is the manufacturer of physical law. And then you apply them to perhaps your storage shed. And so they built that, so you buy that, you stick it on your storage shed, you start renting out your storage shed for some period of time. When you receive payment, it unlocks it, then it locks it. So it's the thing on the right that's a bit disturbing, disrupting. And this is the key thing that I find really kind of disturbing about all this stuff is we're removing the middleman. So there's a couple things that, one called Muse now, and another one called Arcade City. Why have Airbnb at all? Why have iTunes? Why have Uber? Why not just go directly, why give them a cut? Why give, again, I bring up Spotify because my son's in music and they get ripped off. And there's one that was 2 days ago called Open Bazaar, and Craig and I both spotted it. So why have Amazon, why have eBay? This allows you to trade directly with someone else. And I can't for the life of me figure out how these people are going to monetize. I don't understand internet monetization anyway. But if there's no middleman, what's the point of it? I don't get it. So removing the middleman is kind of profound because if you think about it a bit deeper, we're all middlemen. So what are we going to do? Okay. So the gig economy is when you have something that someone would pay to use. And so if you start in the upper at 11 o'clock, you identify a need. So I want to go to the city. I want to take a taxi. You assess the need. I've got my app. You send out, I want to go. All the drivers, Uber, say I can get them. You use the service, and you vote on the satisfaction. I first experienced Uber 2 years ago in San Francisco, and I was with my family and my son. I was explaining to him what was going on, and when he got it, that was joy of parenthood. That was really, like he saw the implications of this. But the thing that's really cool about Uber is when you vote on satisfaction. I don't know how many people here use Uber. Yeah, most of us. I just find it really good. But you vote on how good they were, but they actually vote on how good you were as well. So if you're a total jerk, who's going to pick you up again? It's a good idea. That's right. Yeah. You're on the blacklist. So you make a decision after some research, and you read the feedback. Like when you're on TripAdvisor, my wife is an expert. She doesn't really understand computers, but she understands TripAdvisor. And you use it and rate it, and they rate you. If it's bigger, you may have to place a bond like Airbnb. And if it's really big, and I couldn't find an example in this, but if you're renting a backhoe, you have to also involve insurance. And there's actually a thing that's getting involved in insurance right now, and that's safe insurance. That's what it's okay, so I'm not sure why it's automated. What do we really want? Well, I'm getting a little bit of philosophical here. If you think about what it is we're trying to do, we're trying to, be healthy in all forms of financial, physical, have a good family life. We want to see things get better, whatever we perceive that to be, and we, by nature, tend to come together. So those are the three things we really want to do. And we want to do that for ourselves, for our family, for our neighborhood, region, and in the process we hope we don't destroy the planet. So that was sort of the first part. I want to now, if anyone wants to, right, Craig says might want to have an open discussion. If anyone wants to chat or talk a bit about that, otherwise I'll sort of give you a whimsical look at one day in 2029. Like I say, I'm not an expert on any of those things, and because we're in this market is exploding, and I predict that half of those things will either go away or will merge with someone else this time next year. And typically in markets in general, what happens is you get hundreds of players, and then they someday consolidate down to the big four, whatever it is. But we're a ways away from that. All right, I might just continue on.
Just I can have a bit of a chat at the end.
What's that?
I was saying just roll on.
Yep.
Chat at the end.
No worries. Okay, so I found this rather cheesy-looking book. I don't know why I picked it up, but it's actually really good. This is an overview of Bitcoin, and of course it gets into all the concepts, so you might want to check it out. And as I said, it's published way back in November 2014. It's already starting to date a bit, amazingly, but still, it's got really good concepts in it. And the part that I'm going to expand on is this chapter near the end where it said a day in the life in 2030. So I've changed to 2029 because things are always going to happen quickly. So this guy on the front, his name is Crowley or something, and it's pretty goofy. It's just sort of like a dummies book, but I don't know, it's good. Okay, so I reckon by 2029, Bitcoin will be pretty prevalent, and those DAOs will come and go, and humans won't really be involved. And we'll be wearing and hearing and implant. There's a hearable that's I can't remember, it's from Germany. So when I say hearable, instead of just headphones, now they're starting to be basically bionic, so you can filter out traffic noise, you can zoom in on somebody's conversation. You can buy that now. It's $300. You can put a link up in this image. 5-letter word starts with BR, .de. And let's get rid of the middleman, as I said. Okay, so instead of using Crowley, I've used somebody called Taurus or Tor. Now I picked Tor's going to be a lawyer, which is a pretty weird choice, but this is actually from personal experience. My son went into university, and he said, "Dad, what should I do? Should I be a software engineer or a lawyer?" Now, my son hasn't shut up since he was 18 months. He talks, he's an extrovert. And I thought, seriously, by this time, we wouldn't not be writing code, because there used to be something called 4GL, and it was 5GL, I believe. And actually, in some places, we don't write code. My website, I just dragged and dropped and got it to it in 10 minutes. Hope it doesn't look like that. But a lawyer, even though we despise them, there's going to be a need for somebody to write all the rules for all this stuff. And my son actually brought up this case, and it's been known where, now we're getting into smart cars a bit, but what happens when there's this theoretical case where there's a kid playing in a tunnel for some reason, and your smart car comes around the curve? What does it do? Does it protect the kid? Does it protect the customer? Does it protect the vehicle? So somebody's going to die. And whose fault? Is it the programmer? You're getting into these ethical dilemmas. So I still think there's actually going to be lawyers. So while Tor was sleeping, his smart bed checked the current version of all the sleep quality apps that he had. In the book, there's actually an auction that goes on to the side end to wake up Crowley. And in the book, the one who picked it actually got a little bit wrong in his connection, so they had to rebate back some Bitcoin to make that happen. This is in the book. So there's a person in the army that just installed a water heater, and or in this case, likes to take long hot showers. So he's willing to buy some more hot water off him, and just by turning the tap, there's Internet of Thing connection, and it transfers the money to the guy. It almost sounds a bit like communism, but it is sort of capitalism, because it's kind of a new way of looking at things. And before he goes to work, he checks, and in his neighborhood, he wants to vote for various things. What should we put our money into? Should we do potholes? So now we're just eliminating a whole bunch of bureaucrats, which I think is pretty good. So on his way to work, he looks for a self-driving car in the neighborhood. Now, this little sub-point, I was reading someone, and they thought, yeah, you could do this. You could have, like, I'll pay you something to get out of the way. But I can see that being a really bad idea. So now you're giving an incentive to someone to basically be jerking in front of you. So, and whether he's in control anyway. I don't know. But you got to be really careful with these things. And again, we're getting into ethics, whether that's a lawyer or not. But something going on. I couldn't think of what Tor was going to do once he got there, and why he even had to go anywhere to do this. But I was thinking maybe he represented a competent farmer who was growing sort of corn that maybe protected against malaria, and somebody else was a rewilder who brought back dodo birds and he was eating the corn. So there was some at break, he earns 120 millis, which I think that's about $50 a month, so it's million bitcoins. And more importantly, he gets 4-star rating for providing an answer on justanswer.com. Justanswer.com actually exists right now, and I used it. I actually got a lawyer because my previous contract, I was into this case. I thought, I'm pretty sure I just need to ask somebody. So I paid my $50. I got this guy who's Australian, and he was actually living in the States, and overnight he just gave me an answer. It was good. I didn't have to go pay $300 every 6 minutes. So you can use that. They're not just lawyers, they're everybody on 50 TV. It's just a group of people out there. And so after he's done his work, he decides to give back to various things. Crowd's news aggregator. One of our clients when I was in Perth was a company that came and went, and then they became a shell company, and they got bought by a crowdsourced news aggregator. I don't know how they're doing. And I reckon you might as well be paid daily or real time. I mean, there's no point waiting 2 weeks to get paid. And during the time, a friend calls and he's bought a house. Now this is directly out of the book. So in 2023, the Digital Real Estate Reform Act happened, and now every house is tracked with a Satoshi. Satoshi is about 1,000%. So it's still money, but not really. And what's called a colored coin. So it's a bit, or a Satoshi, which has a purpose. It's not, what's the term? It's not like all the others. It's specific. So the friend took his wallet out and did a title search and linked it to the house. And by checking the blockchain, which has a history of everything, he was guaranteed that it was his. There was no liens on the house. It all happened straight away. And by 2029, it'll probably happen instantaneously. And so the ownership was transferred with what's called multi-signature transactions. So if you get into this stuff, you'll find that you can do a one-to-one, which isn't as secure as if you do a 2 to 3, all these different. So I picked $1 million, 2,000 Bitcoin to the seller. The seller sends the colored coin to him, and then somebody takes a cut, but from what I just said, maybe not. I bought it. I have commission. So the friend invites Tor over to celebrate after work, and the big thing in the last 24 hours was a new MasterChef dessert recipe. So I thought, well, I'll have to spend a bit of money on this because it's a sliding market. Everything's sliding now in terms of stock markets and things. So, but it's cool, right? For now, for the next 24 hours. So he buys it and he prints it off at work, cake, whatever it is, and he's going to take it. When I say print it off, I mean the cake, not the rest of it.
If you 3D print food, it just tastes like plastic.
Yeah. Have you tried it? I went to I went to a thing at Tech Park. This is about 5 years ago. This is in Sydney, in Redfern, in Paul Redfern. Yeah, it was just amazing because 3D printers, again, are amazing. But I think that was amazing. Blockchain is covering it all. But there's all these different materials that you can use. So there's things that are kiln hard. So that means they can withstand 300 degrees, 1,000 degrees centigrade. You can print them. And then, of course, there were things that were created that you can't create any other way. The strange stuff. Okay, so anyway, he goes to this thing to celebrate. He's got a subscription, again, all these micropayments happening. He's on a keto diet. I will look up what that is, low carb. And it adjusts for his beers that he's had. So he doesn't have to worry about it. I put this one in. eHarmony agent notes that Melissa and Brianna will be there. And he's asked if he wants to tweak the algorithm, and says, no, wait. I find it really weird. There's this new program on Channel 10 called Married at First Sight, and it's sponsored by He Harmony. And as far as I can tell, I haven't really watched. I don't watch it, but my wife watched it, and nobody loses. Like they end up, they're happy. Like they've never met these people. They get married at first sight. So obviously the algorithm's really good. So in the future, how do you meet mom? The algorithm got us good. Okay, so finally Tor gets home at the end of the day, and he decides he wants to spend a bit of money, so he's going to watch a live performance of wholeworldband.com. This is another thing that exists right now. Freaking amazing. What it is what's his name? It'll come to me. But anyway, what it is somebody like Sting puts down an idea, and then he says, I want the bass player to kind of do this. So again, like what we're doing here, but imagine you all have guitars in your hand. You start playing a riff, and then they all exist, and then someone else later can be the mixer and come along and put it together. Kevin 10cc, the other guy who did this part 10cc, Kevin, maybe someone else knows what his last name is. Yeah, so it's there right now. So in the future, you can collaborate with people all around the world. And that's, again, what people are doing, the way he mixes sound, but it's pretty cool. If you go there, you'll see his little promo on it. So the apartment adjusts all the environmentals to eliminate what the keto diet didn't do in terms of a hangover. And Fashion Nerd exists as well. Who knows where fashion's going, who cares, but maybe there's an injectable embedded LEDs that also find information. And then he just reads on the future of arbitrage. Now, if you don't know what arbitrage is, it's when you go to two markets and people haven't spotted it. So you buy something from Amazon, you sell it on eBay or vice versa, and you flip it. I don't know if that's even exists anymore. Everyone will know what's going on. I'm almost at the end. One more thing. These exist now. There's a political party called Flux. And if you go to their website, it's an Australian political party. And the idea is, if they can get enough members, I think they're up to, last time I checked, 800 people have actually, you have to actually register to be part of the political party. And if they can, by some chance, get someone in Parliament, they'll be just a mouthpiece. To go back to what I mentioned just before that person left, he was voting on potholes and things. Well, there's no reason why you can't put this on the federal level. And probably this aspect of blockchain is the thing that really would be the best thing I could see possibly happen, because I'm so sick of those people that I don't trust anymore. And all their, Bronwyn Bishop, well, I don't want to get into it, but it'd be so good.
Imagine if everyone started by their own every decision power.
Well,
What would happen?
yeah, you don't have to vote. You don't have to. Like, if you read the rules, you can save them up, or you can give them to others. So, but the thing is, you can actually participate. Back in Athens, ancient Greece, I used to work with a Greek guy, and he used to point out that all these things that we now live with, like Pythagoras and all the things they invented, there's only 230,000 of them. So they were citizens that participated. They actually got a vote. Anyway, it's.
So on that, Mike, sorry to interrupt. So Max K, who heading up that project, is going to be here for the Melbourne Knowledge Week Open Day that we're having here at the centre on the 3rd of May.
Yeah. And
he's going to be here in the evening. He's coming in to do have a social event here. So if anyone wants to find out more about Vote Flux, then come to the centre on the 3rd of May.
Excellent. Okay, I hope we. Okay. I don't know if everyone heard that, but there's two guys, Max and the other guy. I've linked in with both of them. But
yeah, I forget the other guy.
Yeah, that's really good. So we'll put that on the website, Craig.
Yeah, sure.
Ah, he's still there.
Okay.
Two more slides. So we're talking about all these things that are going to disrupt everything, but there's actually something coming along right now that's going to disrupt everything. This is a company that lived just down the road from where I used to live in Vancouver way back, quantum computers, and a lot of people are putting money into this. And if this actually works, and they seem to exist, all the encryption and stuff is out the window, because this stuff's going to have to be orders of magnitude faster. So this is quantum physics. So we're not talking ones and zeros. It's like qubits, which might be something. I don't. As Niels Bohr said, anyone who's not shocked by quantum theory has not understood it. I'm actually shocked, and I don't understand it. I don't think any of this.
But the upshot is it will destroy a couple of privacy.
It will.
The mathematical factoring of large numbers will become feasible, and every encrypted piece of data in the world will become readable by anyone on a computer.
Correct.
And that'll be the end of blockchain.
It's disrupting the disruptor. Yeah. But that's why governments are pouring money into it. Of course, they have an interest in that.
Will it be possible to do
Well,
they're already using it to tamper-proof communication. You can send a public key using Heisenberg's principle that if you
uncertainty.
if you measure it, you change it, so you can tell that anyone's even looked at the key.
Yeah, right.
And if someone looks at it, the key is ready to be valid. So there'll be some sort of like switch to another technology. But my guess is that large-scale quantum computers. I just feel like this relies on a many worlds interpretation of reality that
who knows where this is?
I just don't think we'll ever get to the macro sphere of our lives. But if it does,
but again, we've said that.
I read a lot of science fiction, which it does.
It's a big bet one way or the other.
Yeah.
I put this other little bit, which is the singularity. If you ever saw Johnny Depp in Transcendent, and they take over. Anyway, it's all very cheery. Cool.
When is that going to happen according to Ray Kurzweil? Is it 2040 or something? Or 2039 or something?
You see on the wall, it's right there. So it's
Be like negative.
Okay, cool. Save up my penny so I can afford it when it's on offer.
That might be it. I thought I had one. Oh, I have to stop. I have to stop then. Okay. Go on, Mike. Yes.
I can hear you now. You're back again.
Okay, so you want to take it back? Just put your face up there.
Yeah, I'll do that. So I'll present to everyone now. One of the things I wanted to throw out there, a conversation about how does investment in a DAO, so a distributed autonomous organisation that no one owns really.
You're breaking up a bit, Craig.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're just fading in a little bit. Not too bad.
I'm just thinking, what's the incentive for venture capitalists to put money into people to actually write the code to build these distributed organisations? If there isn't the payoff of a potential billion-dollar exit, which is half the reason I think most VCs get into this at the moment, if there isn't that sort of payoff mechanism, then what incentivizes them to actually do this? So, for instance, what is the incentive to build OpenBazaar, which has been built, right? I don't know. If anybody's got sort of some thoughts on that, I wouldn't mind having a bit of a chat.
I guess with the Slockit model, which I put up, that was the 3 balls and one was a DAO. I kind of see it like a trust. So I have one company where there's a unit trust that, well, actually a number of trusts, of which I'm one, deals with a unit trust which runs the company. So it's similar. It doesn't answer your question, and especially it doesn't answer your question about OpenBazaar. As I said earlier, I don't understand that. Although I don't really understand where Facebook makes its money that we can see.
Well, I mean, from my perspective, so Facebook makes its money by getting eyeballs, and then selling portions of those eyeballs in advertising. That's its revenue model.
So we're talking advertising.
It's advertising. Right? That's kind of the model. And maybe that's the model for investing in a DAO, that you don't get the actual IP or the ownership of the platform or the company as such, but you potentially get the Bible that you can monetize later. It's a long road, though.
I think what's really important right now is that all these things that are coming out are open source, and if you start looking at the open source model, everyone contributes. Where you make your money, which is some things I've done, is that it's your expertise in it. And so there's going to be a period where anyone, like I said, just like software, you can put your website together, but it's going to be a period in the next couple of years where you're going to have the expertise to put smart contracts together for people because they haven't caught up yet. But eventually the technology and the general public will catch up and they'll do it themselves. So it all seems to be heading towards, certainly not capitalism as we know it.
Well, certainly some of these things sound like the public services governments could create very, very efficient resource distribution, autonomous resource distribution, like the self-driving cars.
Yeah.
Took the human beings out of the equation and profit motive, then public transport would be literally that, right?
Yeah. And anyone who's had to deal with government, just the amount of overhead, I'll call it overhead, it'd be nice to eliminate a lot of that. Of course, that represents jobs, so there's that other problem. I don't know how many people have kids that are going into higher education, what you recommend to them. I was a bit stumped.
I said to my son, you want to be programming the robots.
Yeah.
It's the only everything. Robots will replace everything, so just try and be the programmer. I mean, seriously, to some extent, that's what I think.
Yeah.
So your example of lawyers was really interesting. We worked a fair bit with machine learning and so forth, and it's pretty clear that the legal profession is going to be totally disrupted by smart programs that are reading contracts, and a contract itself will become more and more like code versus sort of like complicated legalism that's ambiguous and so forth.
Yeah.
And the more that happens, that sort of like virtuous circle will drive a lot of the legal work away.
Yes. Yeah. As we know it. Yes. Yeah. And a lot. If you look at lawyers, like my son is facing a few years of articling where he's basically runs around. Now he's using Google, whereas in the past he had these massive books with dust on it. So yeah, all that sort of stuff.
Hey Mike.
Yep.
I've just got a question from PK's group, but I can't unmute them. I don't know why. Are you able to?
Okay. It must be these people. Yeah. Yeah. We can see you.
Yeah, we can see them, but I just...
Yep. Oh. Maybe you guys have to unmute yourself. No, that's not it.
I've unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go. We can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I suppose to your question before, Craig, if you look at the Visa and MasterCard in the US from
Hey Simon, you're a little bit too far away. We can't hear you.
In the camp.
Yeah. Can you hear me
Oh,
now?
that was interactive. I can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah.
An interesting precedent on how you monetize and how VC is going to deal with the blockchain sort of movement. So the way that MasterCard and Visa deployed and got some money in the US and over here.
We can only hear every second word. Sorry.
Sorry. So I guess the Visa and MasterCard are an interesting precedent. They really trade on their brand on competitive spaces, and they also trade and getting collaboration between all the organisations. So, and they clip the ticket for that purpose. So, I find whether the blockchain stuff will follow a similar sort of model.
But MasterCard is still a traditional organisation, aren't they? So whatever value they create, that can be collectively bought or sold by shares, or sort of taken over, or it's a one. So somebody essentially owns it, or a small group of people own it versus the number of people that actually work in it.
Hey Craig, can you just paraphrase what Simon said, because we didn't really pick it up here.
I think what Simon's saying is that there's a precedent with the way that MasterCard runs their business in terms of that they provide a certain type of functionality, and then they put a ticket for the provision of that functionality. Is that what you're saying, Simon?
Yeah. So I suppose when you take blockchain, it's the transfer of value and that unlocks in real time. So MasterCard and Visa are a bit more a different model, but the way that they monetize they monetize through the transfer of value and enabling that interchange between different groups and organisations. They clip the ticket as it comes through as a proportion of that, and they also make money off branding on cards and for merchants and card acquirers and that sort of thing. So I know blockchain is taking it to the nth degree, and it's a whole new business model. But I think there's some correlation there between how you might see these things monetized.
Yeah. So one of the good examples I'm thinking of, and I've talked about this in this group before, is the function of a body corporate. So, you know, for those that sort of understand the property industry a little bit, you've got 100 people that each own an apartment. Each of them pays body corporate fees, and those body corporate fees go into a trust. And then there's people elected that are committee members that make some sort of voting, you know, mechanism to say, okay, we're going to spend money on a heater or a hot water thing or a, you know, a air conditioner or potholes or whatever. I look at that as something that is essentially 100 people that need to collectively make decisions for the good of every one of those 100 people. And so, you know, I'm talking to the CFO of one of Australia's largest body corporate companies, and throwing in the idea that if you created a platform, you know, that did this, essentially you're completely dropping out the need for a body corporate management business at all, but you're providing a platform where you can clip the ticket on every body corporate sort of, you know, function across Australia or across the world. My only problem with that conversation is, you know, if that person or even me is going to spend money for somebody to write the code to actually create this thing, what's the incentive model for that person to put that effort in to create it in the first place? Is it the possibility to be that person that the clipping of the ticket, you know, value or money comes to in the future? I don't know. It's something I've really been sort of trying to get my head around.
Sorry, John, mute again. I know it's causing some echo there, but Paul, Craig, for you to take back, I seem to be still in control.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay. I don't know why. Anyway.
Did anybody hear that? What I was saying?
No, you were there. It's just that I seem to be driving it for some reason.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so that's a bit of a thing I'm trying to get my head around, because it's, I mean, it really comes down to, or comes back to the reason why you would the blockchain as a technology stack in the first place. Because I think we've covered this before. It's like a lot of people go, oh, okay, we've got this idea, this business idea. You know, I want to be able to create a platform that makes things easier in X, Y, Z way. And I think I need to use the blockchain. Now, I think in a lot of circumstances, they're jumping to the blockchain as a solution or a technology stack. Yeah, it's possible that other things will do the things that don't sort of extend the capabilities of the blockchain as a technology.
Hey, Mike, it's Rahul here. I kind of heard that question, and I think one of the things we got to realize is maybe in that specific situation, you're actually talking